Hi guys, and welcome to another review that I really hope you'll enjoy. And what I have here today is a fairly unfamiliar brand to me. I think it's pronounced AIYIMA, if I'm correct, and their preamplifier / DAC called Tube T5. Now officially, its price ranges from $130 to $150, but quite often you can actually find it below $100 mark for 99, 89 even, or something like that. And for that amount of money, I think it has a really interesting set of features to offer. So let's dig into it a little bit. Now let's look at the back first. And as you can see, I mentioned it's a preamp, not just a DAC. And what that means, among other things, is that you get some analog inputs too. You can see pair of RCA connectors here and auxiliary input 3.5 millimeters. But you also do have digital input, one USB connection, and Bluetooth antenna, which is quite odd in this price range. It's really a nice feature to have. One set of RCA analog outputs, and of course power input here. Now let's look at the front panel while I turn it on also. Okay, as you can see, there is a headphone output here. It's 6.35 millimeters, and there is also a volume knob, and step of adjustment, you have maximum of 30 steps, which is fine enough. It's decent. It could be a little bit finer step. I prefer from 0 to 99 or 1 to 100, but this is okay. I haven't experienced any trouble actually of not being able to set my volume as fine as I wanted to while using it. And another interesting thing is that you get a remote with this unit. Here it is. And everything you can do here, you can do over remote too. So basically, it doesn't need to be in your reach to completely operate it. One thing interesting, it has tone controls. So you can see here, if I switch from this hi-fi mode, that means flat tone controls, everything is 0. But if you switch to tone controls, you have treble and bass controls in step of 2 decibels. Basically, I haven't used those because sound is fairly balanced by itself, but let me get to that a little bit later. And remote control itself is plasticky, but it's very functional. It works all the time. It never skipped a command that I gave it. So for this price range, I say that's a win. Now, the build itself is really great. It feels quite sturdy and positively heavy. As you can see, the front plate is made of thick aluminum plate. It's brushed. It's also all unit is brushed aluminum. And as I mentioned, this is a tube DAC preamp. So where are the tubes? They are usually protruding outside. But here, as you can see, they are located inside of the unit. If it works sometime, this whole top part gets quite hot. It's not too hot, you will not burn your fingers, but yeah, be aware of it, don't lean on it too much or something. Now, factory supplied tubes are 6K4, if I'm correct, and they are changeable if you want to have some fun with tube rolling. I didn't do that. I tested everything as I received it with factory supplied tubes. And as you can see, the screen is big, bright, easily readable in all environments that I tried it. So that's a plus in my opinion. Okay, so now let's move to the most important part, and that's actually sound quality. Now, first of all, as usual, I will talk about its line output / pre-out, because you can just turn the volume to the max and it will be line out of 2.3 volts. If you use attenuation, you can use it as preamp too. That's also okay. And the sound T5 is capable of producing is quite decent actually. Now, everything was fairly balanced from bottom to the top end. Bass notes were decently heavy and hefty. Mid-range, like vocals and all other instruments, sounded present, nice, and they had a decent amount of body and presence. Not thin, shrill in any way, and that's a plus always in this price range. High frequencies, they are present, quite detailed, probably not the most detailed I heard at this price point, but they are very pleasant, kinda on a soft side, smooth side, and overall I liked its sound signature. Now, I tried using tone controls a little bit, but I didn't really need them because, as I mentioned, balance is really good from the start. I had at hand Dragonfly Black here, so I was curious to compare these two. So I hooked this one to my amp too, switched back and forth a little bit, and I must say that they're quite similar sounding. Like overall dynamics, tonality, soundstage width and depth are completely comparable. And I suppose that in a little bit less resolute systems or not on a critical listening, it would be really hard differentiating these two. But that said, in my system, I did slightly prefer T5. Why is that? Because it offered a little bit better control of the bass lines compared to Dragonfly. Dragonfly was a little bit more thumpy and not as well controlled. Also, sound overall is a little bit nicer and smoother through T5 than to Dragonfly, which is a little bit more dry and analytical in high frequencies and mid-range. So, as I said, it's a really small difference, but if I were to choose any of these to use as a DAC in my home system, I would choose T5 over Dragonfly Black. Now, the next thing I did, of course, is to try it with headphones. The volume control is shared, so be sure when you're using headphones to decrease volume first. And I tried it with several headphones that I had at hand, like these Takstar Pro 82s, AKG K92s, and some other in-ear models like Audio T2 and Senfer DT6. And the overall sound signature basically remained the same as on line output. It's well-balanced sound without any part of frequency range being emphasized. I again didn't feel any need to use tone controls. Now, talking about the power, it felt sufficiently powerful to drive mentioned headphones that I just mentioned. So for example, for these Takstars I would use 10, 12, something like that. For in-ear models I would use even lower setting. In that regard it's very comparable to Dragonfly Black here. They have similar output power, and regarding sound quality itself, again I compared it to Dragonfly, which is actually better headphone amp than it is DAC. And repeatedly I was surprised by how it sounds connected to headphones. It's definitely doing that better than when you use it as a pure DAC connected to an amp. So I compared them a little bit, and even though the difference is not huge, I must say that I preferred Dragonfly Black. If you ask why, it's because it offers a little bit more incisive sound, especially in mid-range and high frequencies. it can dig a little bit more details than T5. T5 on its own is just fine, but if you compare it to Dragonfly, it lags a little bit in pure clarity and crispiness of note edges. One thing though made a little bit more important difference. When I tried using T5 with in-ear models, I could detect slight background hiss. It's not huge, it's not annoying. Basically I did not notice it when I was listening to the music, but every time I would pause, I was aware of background hiss. And when I detach my headphones from the device, I hear the silence. When I attach them again, I'm aware of slight background noise. That is something not detectable through Dragonfly, for example. So I would advise that you approach this device with caution if you use a lot of in-ear models. If you use higher impedance headphones, that would not be a problem, and at least with my headphones I haven't detected any hiss in that case. And last thing that I want to talk about is Bluetooth connection. Now, as you can see here, this is a Bluetooth antenna and I tried using it. I paired it with my Android phone. Everything went smooth and pairing was very quick without any problems. One thing that was a little bit interesting for me is that my smartphone registered the device as Tube 06. Sound quality is just fine, and I say fine because nothing is really missing. There is a good balance, there is a decent dynamic and energy. Of course, it's not at the same level as you get when you're using USB connection. Edges are a little bit softer, not as precise and not giving you the same level of attack and edginess. Small details in higher frequencies are not as clear and crisp as through wired connection, but that's all quite normal. That's how Bluetooth functions. It's always the case in all devices. But just for casual listening, it works quite fine, it's really convenient, and I haven't noticed any drops in connection, any pops, glitches, or anything like that, which is great. So before I finish, I think I probably forgot to mention in the beginning, file support is one of the bigger disadvantages of this model. There is no high-res file support. There is only 16-bit up to 48 kHz. So if you like using high-res files, you would have to look somewhere else. If your music library doesn't contain any high-res files, this is a really decent sounding device with a lot of functions, with a Bluetooth, analog inputs, volume control, headphone output, which is quite decent, but I would not suggest using it with sensitive in-ear models because of a slight background hiss. You can, it's okay, it's not a huge deal, but if in-ear headphones are something you use on a daily basis, I would choose some other device. Other than that, it's a really nice little device. Line out actually betters quality that you get with Dragonfly Black. Headphone output is at similar level, a little bit beneath Dragonfly Black. So that would be it. As you can see, it's a really interesting little device with few drawbacks, but other than that, really decent sound quality and few really interesting features that are not granted at this price point. And I really hoped you enjoyed this video, and if you haven't done that already, please click subscribe and share this channel with your friends so you can help me bring even more interesting videos like this one. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.